I quit corporate after 22 years to start my own business, and in the first 6 months, I made every mistake you can make. In this video, I'm sharing the things that I'd wish I'd known before I left my job, the hard lessons that cost me time, money, and quite a lot of sleepless nights, wondering if I've made a huge mistake. So whether you're thinking about leaving corporate, or maybe you've already made the leap and it's not going the way you expected, this video will save you from repeating the same painful mistakes that I made. Without knowing these things, you risk burning through your savings faster than expected, taking on the wrong clients out of desperation, and building a business that feels just as suffocating as the corporate job that you left. The first thing I learned was that I didn't realize how long it takes to actually make money. So when I first started, I thought I'd be making decent money within 3 to 6 months. I had the skills, I had the network, I had the credentials, and I genuinely believed that that would, move me quite quickly. And looking back, that was actually quite naive. I'd never run this sort of business before. I hadn't taken any training or got any coaching on how to do it. I just started with a blank sheet of paper and started to figure it out. And it actually took me most of that first year to consistently get monthly revenue that matched what I needed to live. And I've been so confident leaving my previous role, and I thought my experience would translate into clients pretty much immediately, but it didn't. And here's what happens when you don't know this. You panic. You take on clients that aren't the right fit just to get cash flow into your business. And you lose sleep wondering if you've made a catastrophic mistake. And I did all of that. I made about £42,000 in that first year. And it was only in the second year that I started to earn a good 6-figure income. Now, if I'd actually bothered to learn about how to start this sort of business before I started, I know I would have hit the ground running and my income would have ramped up much faster. But I didn't. And lesson learned. And I'm telling you this so that you can take action so that you don't start your business perhaps as naively as I did. The second thing that I wish I'd known was that I thought my corporate credentials would sell my new services for me, but they didn't. I was previously a KPMG partner, one of the world's biggest professional services firms. I was the head of people for a large part of the firm in the UK, and I'd worked alongside senior leaders for 2 decades. And I thought that was instant credibility. I thought people would want to work with me because of where I'd been. But most people didn't care. Nobody really cares about your previous title. What they care about is whether you can solve the problem they have right now. And the title is just an indication that you might be able to. So I wasted the first 3 to 4 months positioning myself what I now think is in the wrong way. I'd get on calls and I spend the first 10 minutes talking about my KPMG background, thinking that was my credibility. And you could kind of see people's eyes glaze over. They didn't really care about my career history. What they wanted to know was, can you help me figure out what to do next? And that's it. So I was leading with the wrong thing entirely. And here's the cost of that mistake. You confuse potential clients, you watch conversations go nowhere, and you question whether you've actually got anything valuable to offer outside of that corporate context. So here's what to do instead. Position yourself around the problem that you solve, not the title that you held, and test your messaging with real prospects. Ask them what they actually need. Your corporate experience is valuable in its context, but it's not the offer. You can use it to build trust, but don't use it to lead the conversation. I really wish somebody had told me that before I started, and it would have saved me months of positioning myself in a way that just didn't resonate with most people. The third thing I learned was that I underestimated how isolating this would feel. So I thought that leaving corporate would give me autonomy, no more pointless meetings, freedom, and yeah, I definitely got that. But what I didn't expect was how isolating it would feel. I went from 22 years of constant interaction, shared purpose, colleagues to chat to just me, alone, making every decision. There was no one working on the same thing as me to bounce ideas around with, no team to get energy from. And I didn't realize how much of my identity and energy had come from being part of something bigger. And that hit me pretty hard. And when you're isolated like that, you start questioning everything. Did I make the right decision? Am I on the right track? Is this even working? Or is it going to work? Because you don't have anybody to reality check with. And in those first few months, I felt disconnected from my previous peers, and I missed that camaraderie more than I expected, and I hadn't really planned for it. So I quickly started finding other people who were doing what I was doing, either at a similar stage or a little bit further ahead than I was. And I reached out to them and had chats with them about their business and whether there were ways that we could potentially help each other. So I think here's what you should do differently before you start. Build a peer group before you leave. Other founders, solopreneurs, coaches, people who understand what you're going through. And then just schedule regular connection times with these people, or maybe co-working sessions, or set up some accountability partners. And once you get going, join communities of real people building the same thing as you're building. I'm a member of 2 such communities, and it makes a huge amount of difference knowing that I'm not on my own. So recognize that isolation is real and plan for it intentionally. Don't wait until you're struggling and wondering why you feel so alone. I really wish I'd known that before I left. It would have made those first few months so much easier. The 4th lesson I learned was that I wasted months building the wrong thing because I didn't test it first. So when I started, I thought I knew what people needed. I spent 4 months developing a full executive decision-making coaching program. I mapped it all out, built the materials, made it beautiful, launched it, and crickets. Turns out people didn't want decision-making coaching. They wanted help figuring out what they actually wanted next in their career. Same outcome, but completely different framing. And if I just had 5 conversations with potential clients first, I know I would have known that immediately. But I didn't. I assumed, and I wasted 4 months I could have spent generating more revenue. And here's the painful part. I had to completely pivot my positioning, and I felt like I'd wasted all that effort, and I didn't know if I could trust my judgment anymore. So here's what to do instead. Talk to 5, 10, 20 potential clients before you build anything. Sell the outcome that they're desperate for, not the framework that you think is clever. Launch ugly and iterate. Test your offer with real people for real money and then refine it. Don't make the same mistake that I did, spending months building something in a vacuum that then nobody actually wants to buy. And the 5th thing, and maybe this is the most costly one, was I let imposter syndrome keep me playing small for way too long. I thought I needed to be completely ready before I put myself out there. I thought I needed perfect positioning, a polished website, and to have those things to come across as a clear authority. But here's the truth. I was actually ready months before I acted like it. The perfectionism and the fear of not being seen to be credible enough outside of my previous role kept me invisible when I should have been building momentum. And I remember drafting LinkedIn posts and never hitting publish. I'd write something and I think, who am I to say this? And I was terrified of being seen as less credible or less authoritative. So I stayed quiet. And while I was staying quiet, I was invisible. Nobody knew what I was doing or that I could potentially help them. And that was entirely self-inflicted. So here's what that cost me. Some delayed visibility, delayed clients, delayed revenue, all because I didn't feel ready despite my 22 years of experience. So here's what to do instead. Publish before you're comfortable. Raise your prices to what reflects your actual experience, not what feels safe. And recognize that imposter syndrome is loudest at the beginning, but also that it's always going to be with you as you develop your business. And that's a good thing because it tells you that you're growing into the person you want to become. I don't regret leaving corporate at all. It was the right decision for me, but I do regret how much harder I made it on myself because I didn't know what I was walking into. I wasted months building the wrong things. I burned through savings faster than I needed to, and I took on clients I shouldn't have. I played small because I didn't realize what actually mattered. And the hardest part was that I just kept thinking, maybe I'm just not cut out for this, when in reality, I just didn't have a proper roadmap. So if you're thinking about leaving corporate, don't make the same mistakes I did. Learn from my hindsight, know what you're walking into, and give yourself a real shot at building something that works for you. And I'd love to hear how you get on. Now, if you're thinking about leaving corporate and want to avoid the mistakes that cost most people months or years of wasted effort, I put a link in the description to something which will help you. And if you found this video helpful and you'd like to see more, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.